Up next, Bridge Detroit journalist Jenna Brooker joins Authentically Detroit to discuss her explosive story on how one of Detroit's most powerful families is displacing Eastside residents. But first, this week for Hot Takes, Donna and I discuss license plate readers and whether or not the way Detroit tows cars with outstanding tickets violates citizens' constitutional rights. Keep it locked. Authentically Detroit starts now.
Founded in 2021, the Stoudemire is a membership-based community recreation and wellness center centrally located on the east side of Detroit. Membership in the Stoudemire is available on a sliding scale for up to $20 per year or 20 hours of volunteer time. The Stoudemire offers art, dance, and fitness classes, community meetings and events, resource fairs, pop-up events, the neighborhood tech hub, and more. Members who are residents of the east side have access to exclusive services in the wellness network. Join today and live well, play well, be well. Visit ecndetroit.org.
Bridge Detroit is your news and engagement platform that is telling the stories of Detroiters rooted by community priorities. Started in 2020 by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Stephen Henderson, the newsroom has already established its footing as the go-to source for hyper-local perspectives that ask the hard questions, brings accountability, and searches out real solutions. It's free to become a member of this award-winning news organization. Visit bridgedetroit.com today to sign up to receive the news delivered right to your inbox. Bridge Detroit, by Detroiters, for Detroiters.
Hey, y'all, it's Orlando. We just want to let you know that the views and opinions expressed during this podcast episode are those of the co-hosts and guests and not their sponsoring institutions. Now, let's start the show. Hello, Detroit and the world. Welcome to another episode of Authentically Detroit, broadcasting live from the WDET studios. We are a content partner to bridgedetroit.com. I am Orlando Bailey.
And I'm Donna Givens-Davidson.
Thank you for listening in and supporting our efforts to build a platform of authentic voices for real people on the east side of Detroit. We want you to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on all platforms. It's going to be time for Hot Takes, where we run down some of the week's top headlines in the city of Detroit. This week, we have Jenna Brooker of Bridge Detroit joining us. How is everybody doing? Jenna, how you doing? Good to see you in the studio.
Good. Thank you so much for having me in here. It's really exciting.
Yes, it is exciting on this cold, crisp day in the city of Detroit.
Yeah, well, happy to make it out, after everything's on Zoom and on the phone.
I know. It's good to see you in 3D. I'm always happy to see you in 3D. Hey, I want to tell you, you're doing a great job at Bridge Detroit.
Thank you. I
Loving
appreciate
your
that.
articles and the perspectives that you bring and surface here in the city of Detroit. It's much needed.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Donna, you on the phone today. Are you where it's cold? Where you at?
I'm calling in from the Big Easy. I'm in New Orleans. It's about 80 degrees.
Boo. She's rubbing it in,
cold.
too.
I'm sorry. My bad. It's warm. But I have to tell you, I had to get up really early, and I have not really had an opportunity to enjoy this too much. But it's been a good day. I'm really excited. We're going to spend the week here with organizations that are funded by enterprise communities, as well as some of the funders and some of our partners in the city of Detroit. So we're going to have a great time really connecting with our partners in New Orleans and seeing what we have in common and what's different, and hopefully, sharing some best practices.
So you working. I thought this was a pleasure trip. I should have known.
I will be back on a pleasure trip. I've only been here 3 times. The first was the Junior Olympics in 2005, right before Katrina. I went earlier this year for business, and I'm here this time. But I think that Chandra McMillian, who planned the whole thing, did schedule some time for fun.
Oh,
so
that's going to be great.
We're going on a dinner cruise tomorrow. I'm looking forward to
a dinner cruise. Oh, y'all so
yes.
fancy.
Right?
Oh, my gosh.
Right?
The
Yes.
funders take y'all on a dinner cruise. Tell them to take me next time. I absolutely love New Orleans. I've only been one time, but it was, a transcending moment for me, just going.
That's right, because you have family here, right?
Well, my paternal grandmother, my whole paternal side is from New Orleans. And so I do have family there still. And so it felt like, a home that I didn't know I had. It was so cool. It was so cool seeing so many folks that look like my people.
So before we get to hot takes, I promised Charity Dean I would bring up that she said that we are representing authentic voices, real people in Detroit, not just the East Side. She said, wait a minute, I'm on the West Side. You're representing me too.
Oh, God. Well, that's so cool. Well, you know what?
Cool, right?
Because Charity Dean has requested it, and we have so much love and respect for Charity. Charity, we are willing to rewrite our intro line, okay? Just for you. Just for you, Charity Dean. For those of you who don't know, check out Charity Dean's new coffee shop in the Grant Mount Rosedale neighborhood. It's called Rosa. And check out the organization that she founded, the Metro Detroit Black Business Alliance. She's doing some amazing things. Look at us getting the shout-outs early.
She doesn't have children, right?
Right, and she's also a mother and a wife.
And a wife. She is a slacker, but other than that,
Yeah, she's a major slacker.
She's a major slacker. Do something, Charity. Anyway, just joking.
Charity, do something with your life.
Right.
All right, y'all, it's time for hot takes. This hot take, Detroit's proposal for license plate readers could get you towed. This is a story by my colleague Malachi Barrett at Bridge Detroit. So, the Municipal Parking Department is seeking approval of a $1.3 million contract to replace camera systems that capture the license plates of parked cars to determine whether a ticket should be issued or if the vehicle should be towed. It's called the Parking Scofflaw program. It allows for the city to impound vehicles registered to a person with, catch this, 6 or more unanswered parking violations. So to that, there are about 5,105 vehicles with such violations, according to the city. And the majority of those violations, which average to be about 54%, are registered to Detroit addresses. Though vehicles registered to addresses outside of the city, they owe more money. So, city officials said 25 of the 38 automatic license plate readers in the city have been in use since 2012 and are in need of replacement. Okay, the parking department will be unable to enforce parking violations and scofflaw violators without the new readers, according to this report that was commissioned by the city council. So, listen, the fee schedule: unpaid parking tickets increase to $65 after 30 days. Y'all know it well because y'all get this stuff in the mail. Individuals with vehicles registered in another state are subject to a $95 fine. And if tickets go unpaid after 30 days, fines start at $150 in parking and handicap spaces, which increases to $170 after a month. So, all right. So the municipal parking department mails a warning notice. Y'all get these 15 days after the person receives their 6th ticket explaining that their vehicle could be immobilized or impounded. The offender then has 7 days to pay their ticket, enroll in the payment plan, or challenge the parking ticket. If 30 days go by with no contact, the parking department sends a final notice and adds another $25. After that, it's fair game for the city to take action and tow your car, whether you are parked there legally or illegally. Right? In order to release the vehicle, the owner has 21 days to either fully pay their tickets or request an administrative hearing. The owner could permanently lose their vehicle if they do nothing to resolve the situation after 21 days because it is considered abandoned under the law. Residents with vehicles registered to Detroit addresses are eligible for a half-off discount on parking tickets. To receive that discount, residents must sign up with the city on the city's website. The reduced fine only applies if drivers have one unpaid ticket and if they pay the fine within 5 days. So much going on, so many questions. I know that one of the questions was asked if these license plate readers would feed information to the Detroit Police Department. And the parking director said that will not be the case. Donna, what say you?
Well, it's interesting because one of the specific reasons that the parking director, who's the person I know, Keith Hutchins, what's up, Keith Hutchins, I'm talking about you, good guy, but one of the things he's talking about is the opportunity to tow vehicles and the fact that, it's important that the city collect on these tickets, and the way they want to do it is through towing cars. And, we have a habit of doing this when the city is trying to address what it considers to be unpaid bills. We shut off water. we take houses and other properties for tax foreclosure, and we take vehicles. And so it's interesting. You have 21 days. At least if your house is behind in taxes, you have 3 years. But in this instance, you have 21 days to make up for parking tickets. And the thing is, the people who can't get their cars out in 21 days are not going to be people who are major earners downtown who just were neglectful and chose not to pay. We're talking about poor people, people who have limited income and are going to be really challenged by this law. So I think that it reminds me of Bernadetta Tuahene's article, Predatory Cities, where she compares the real estate foreclosures in Wayne County to all of the fines and fees and tickets that people get in Ferguson, Missouri, and the fact that city government actually builds these fines and fees into their budget in order to keep the wheels turning instead of really having an appropriate taxation system. And in this instance, I'm not talking about Detroit, I'm talking about the state and federal taxation to support Detroit and the people who live here. So I think it's ridiculous. And then just a couple things. Last year, I think it was, I don't know if everybody remembers that there was a Supreme Court decision in July of 2020, actually not last year, where the Supreme Court unanimously held in Raffaele versus Oakland County that a Michigan law that allowed local governments to keep the entirety of the proceeds of sales of real property arising from tax foreclosures, even when those proceeds exceed the amount of the underlying deficiency, interest, penalties, and fees, was an unconstitutional taking of property. In fact, the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution has an actual clause, the takings clause, that nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. And if taking a house violates that after 3 years, and Lord knows I'm completely opposed to that, 21 days, and the tow company gets to keep your car. Your car is converted to private use, and I'm sure that there are people who have tickets worth $800 and cars worth $5,000 who are losing $4,200 in value to a law that is unjust. And then I researched it a little bit further, because the question is this legal? And the state of Michigan does have a Michigan car towing law. In the Michigan car towing law, there's absolutely nothing mentioned about towing removing a vehicle without owner's consent, notice, or requirements. There's nothing in there that speaks to losing your car, having your car towed for fines. In fact, the closest thing is a provision in the towing law or a provision in the motor vehicle code that speaks about abandoned vehicles.
Yeah.
Abandoned vehicles that are not reclaimed after 21 days are subject to loss. But this is not a case where the vehicle was abandoned. It's a case where the city of Detroit wants to be able to drive down the street, whether somebody's paid their parking fees or not, see that ticket and take that car. And the final thing I want to say about this, because I know it's happened to people who I know and care about, is when they're looking at your license plate, they're not just looking at your car. If any other car has been registered to the owner of that vehicle in the past 10 years, they'll take it and you have to pay all of those tickets off. So we're not talking about what did you do last year. And the final thing I'm going to say is that $45 is the starting price for a ticket, and that is higher than almost any municipality in the United States. It's one of the unpleasant
Thank you, bankruptcy.
Residues, exactly, of bankruptcy, where they were like, oh, let's increase parking fees. That's the way to balance the budget. We keep on balancing the budget on the backs of poor people and calling it justice, and it's not. Remember the driver's fees, driver responsibility fees that cause poor people to lose driver's licenses all over the state? Well, now you can get your driver's license back, but you won't have a car.
Detroit residents with 6 or more unpaid tickets owe a total of $1.7 million, while parking scofflaws with addresses outside the city owe $1.9 million. The city of Detroit issued 154,717 parking tickets between January and August just this year. And just over half of that has been paid for a total, get this, $4.3 million. But another $5.2 million in unpaid parking tickets, including the scofflaw offenders, is still owed to the city as of the beginning of September. This is really interesting. But, the other interesting piece in this article is that they talked with one of the lawyers at the Detroit Justice Center,
Yes.
Eric Williams. We know Eric Williams. He's the managing attorney with the Detroit Justice Center and he said this, the cameras don't seem problematic so long as they're not concerned or connected to police databases or used to track movements of Detroiters. He said, quote, surveillance technology becomes particularly problematic when there aren't clear limitations on what is collected, how it is used, and how it is shared. If you're talking about data that is being collected when people aren't engaging in anything that should normally trigger government intervention, like walking down the street, it's personally identifiable, and there are clear policies and practices in place to prevent it from being misused. That's when surveillance becomes a problem. But I would go a little bit further and say that we have violence surveillance in the city of Detroit. If this kind of surveillance is going to take my vehicle, and we need cars to get around in the city of Detroit, right? We don't have a reliable public transit system.
Yeah.
That kind of surveillance is violence.
I was really disappointed in reading that quote from Eric. I think that it just speaks to the fact that he is so focused on green light and the surveillance of people that he's not looking at the consequences to people who lose their cars, because that's a justice issue. And unfortunately, we didn't have a chance to have that. We need to sit down with Eric and help him understand the justice issue of people losing their cars. And didn't we just have two, not one, but two city council people convicted for crimes in association with towing companies? Isn't there a towing scandal in the city of Detroit
brewing
right
still?
now,
I think we're still, yes.
We're still in the, I don't remember.
We're still in the throes of it.
So when you look at towing abuses, when you look at the fact that the fees that tow companies charge are too high, to want to ramp up enforcement and give more money to these tow companies is just outrageous to me, especially when you are impairing the ability of Detroit citizens to work, to take their children to school, and to function as responsible citizens in a city that doesn't have adequate public transportation. So when you're talking about taking people's cars, you're talking about taking more than just a vehicle because, again,
because of parking,
we'll go get it back. Yes, exactly.
Because of parking, we're taking people's cars because they park somewhere.
There's people out here who simply cannot afford to pay $45 when they get the ticket.
Oh,
and then it's $65, and then it's $150. If you want more people to pay the tickets, the city of Grosse Pointe doesn't charge that for tickets. The city of Birmingham doesn't charge that for tickets. Southfield doesn't charge that for tickets. Detroit charges more for ticket prices than any municipality in the metropolitan region, in the poorest city in the state. And that's because we have predatory practices of trying to generate money from ticket sales because, again, we're struggling. But this isn't the way to do it, especially not when we are giving away $60 million in tax abatements to corporations that are billionaires. Because if you added up every single ticket that everybody owed, it would not amount to the $60 million that we just gave away and said it was, for the good of Detroit. Well,
is the city? Do you think the city is desperate for this $5 or $6 million that they would collect on? I think. And what are they going to do with the cars? Sell them? Auction them off?
It's just a structural thing. It's how we structure our government. Wayne County would have been in the red. You can't be in the red as a municipality in Michigan or a county in Michigan. Wayne County would have been in the red for several years if not for tax foreclosures. It's what balances the budget. And so when you look at the impact and the need for these fines and fees to close little areas of the budget, and it's not just that. You have people who are having their houses ticketed and other types of what I would call nuisance laws that are being enforced, again, on vulnerable populations. And the city says if you're a Detroit resident, you can do all of these things to have your ticket cut in half. And that's cool because you always have to work twice as hard when you are a low-income resident to get half the benefit as somebody else takes for granted in the communities where they live.
Donna, I'm wondering though, so I want to say that the parking people already drive cars with this kind of technology.
It's old.
Yeah, but it's old. So we got to go.
I'm sorry, they want to be able to do it more quickly. They want to be able to take people's cars.
Because this isn't any new rules, guys. This is what is currently happening. We're going to be following this. And hey, Keith Hutchins, city's parking department director, come on Authentically Detroit. Listen, if you have topics that you want discussed on the podcast, hit us up on our socials at Authentically Detroit on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or you can email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Keep it locked.
Have you always dreamed of being on the airwaves? Well, the Detroit Eastside Engaged Podcast Network, or DEEP for short, is here to make that dream a reality. Located inside the Stoudemire, the DEEP Network offers studio space and production staff to help get your podcast idea off the ground. Doesn't take a whole lot of work to get started. Just visit the Authentically Detroit page at ecn-detroit.org or call Sarah at 313-948-0344.
Welcome back to Authentically Detroit. Listen, this week, Donna and I wanted to discuss a story that came out of Bridge, Detroit at the end of September. The Maroon family, one of Detroit's most powerful families, have been displacing residents on the east side. We decided that in order to best discuss this subject, we needed to connect with none other than the author of the story herself, Jenna Brooker. Jenna, welcome to Authentically Detroit.
Thank you so much.
All right, really excited to dig in to this story. Savannah Lewis, a 92-year-old woman who had been in her home for 60 plus years, is the focal point of this story. Tell me how you found out about her and what is the story exactly?
So I first became aware of this issue when Andrew Bashi, an environmental lawyer from the Great Lakes Environmental Law Center, said that he had been receiving calls from residents in the Cadillac Heights neighborhood over the last few months saying that they were being intimidated into moving. Savannah Lewis was one of them. So I connected with Miss Lewis, and she told me that in May, a representative from a company owned by the Maroons knocked on her door and offered her $90,000 for her home and gave her 3 days to decide. And
wait, what's... So somebody knocks on the door. Paint this picture for us. You're at home. You're doing whatever. La-di-la-la-la. Someone knocks on your door and say, hey, we are with whomever, whatever company, Crown Enterprises or
Right.
whatever Maroon affiliated company. We want to buy your house for $90,000. You got 3 days to decide.
And then 30 days to move out if you decide to take the deal.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and in some cases, they just left these offer letters on people's doors.
With no contact.
Right.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, and so she doesn't want to move. She's been in this house for, like you said, over 60
years.
Yeah, right. And she has poured her heart into this community. She was president of the Block Club Association, won numerous awards for community service in the neighborhood, but the neighbors around her have all taken the deals, and so she feels like she's going to be the only one left on this block, and it's not safe for someone her age to be staying there alone. So she's going to have to move.
All right. And what are the plans that Crown has for this area? They're buying these houses, I'm assuming, to demolish them to make way for what?
They, haven't confirmed. They recently constructed a asphalt facility, a concrete facility that began operation in September, but they said that beyond that, they don't have any concrete plans. They don't have any concrete plans for development beyond the plant. But they want to buy up all these parcels of land to complete this sort of like triangle in the neighborhood that they already own. They already owned a significant amount of land in the neighborhood. And they said that they want to buy up this land to prevent trespassing and blight. But, on the other hand, residents like Miss Lewis are saying that they were taking care of these lots actually that were owned by the Maroons.
That's the story of so many people's lives. Go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, I mean, I you know what? I have to be honest. The part of this came from the sale in 2018 deal with Ford Motor Company for the sale of Michigan Central Depot. That's how they got part of the land. And then part of the land, I think, was Crown acquired another part of the land from the expansion of Chrysler, where the
land
city
swap.
gave them those parcels in a land swap. And so this land swap deal keeps on giving. I think people were looking at Chrysler and not looking at the fact that the city needed 215 parcels, and I believe the parcel that Crown Enterprises owned was about 50 parcels. In response, the city gave them 261 parcels, including some in Cadillac Heights. And to see the land that the city is helping to convey to this private company with a known bad track record help displace people is really concerning to me.
So, Donna, you're drawing and making a parallel that the city helped give way to Crown Enterprises to be in this situation and asking folks to move out of their homes. I'll buy your home. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because when they get a critical mass of property, it makes it easier for them to push other people out, I would say. I don't know if that's what you, if you saw any of that, Jenna, but that seems to me as though giving a company a critical mass of property in that triangle helps to make the case for private persons to be pushed out.
Right. And Council Member Scott Benson, who does represent the Cadillac Heights District, voted in favor of the Stellantis FCA land swap that you mentioned.
We're very familiar with that. We're very familiar with that. Jenna, talk to me a little bit about if you had conversations with residents on the block that took the deals. Why did they take the deal?
I guess it's a bit of a mixed emotion or reason. Like, they have a strong tie to the neighborhood, but the deal was good. And I think ultimately this neighborhood has sort of been disinvested in for years. So it's sort of at the end of this history, and it felt like the best option for those residents. But, when you talk to Savannah Lewis, she's like, I'm 92. I am way too old to be moving. Like, my whole life is in this home.
Now, is $90,000 worth more than what her houses were? Is it more than what her houses were? Are they asking above market price for those homes over there?
I'm not sure exactly how much, but I would say it's probably above market.
You want to know what's funny? The spokesperson, Donna, going back to the parallel that you were drawing with the city sort of helping to, lay this land where a Crown Enterprises can do this to certain people like Miss Lewis or other folks in neighborhoods. John Roach, a spokesman for the Detroit mayor, said the administration has not received any complaints about harassment, but said anyone who feels that they may have been should reach out to Ray Solomon with the mayor's Department of Neighborhoods. What say you, Donna Givens-Davison?
I mean, I think that's fine. What will he do? There have been complaints about many things that are happening inside of communities, and the city's response has not been, the city has not really responded to those concerns. I think, sure, respond, talk to Ray Solomon. What is the power of the district manager, first of all? I know the district manager talks to all of these people, but Crown Enterprises has this land. They have the tacit approval from the mayor. The mayor has recently said, hey, wait a minute, these guys have been doing good things lately. I know they have a bad past, but they're on the path to doing good things. So I don't see it as being, I don't see that as a meaningful intervention.
I don't either. Can you talk a little bit about, Jenna, what sort of qualifies as, an intimidation tactic, right? Crown just leaving letters, knocking on doors. What have you heard from your sources? Were they scared? Did they feel pressured?
Yeah, I think just being given such short, tight terms of being given 3 days to decide. If you've been living somewhere for 60 years, that might be a hard decision to make in 3 days. And then having just a month to move out. And then, some of them were saying that when they express when they push back on that or, express that they didn't want to move, that the representatives from the company became really short and were basically like, well, we're just going to build around you. It doesn't matter if you don't want to move. Like, we're going to do what we want to do.
That sounds so familiar to me, Donna Givens Davis, and it sounds very familiar. So Crown Enterprises admits that they have made unsolicited offers to residents with proposed, in air quotes, timelines in an attempt to buy parcels to prevent this trespassing that you are talking about. You spoke to a representative from Crown Enterprises in your story, or did you reach a spokesperson for Crown or anybody?
Right, and they said they don't have any immediate plans to develop beyond the concrete plant, and that they want to prevent trespassing and blight.
Did they have an answer about, sort of like this crazy timeline of, you have to decide in 3 days, and if you decide yes, you got to move out in 30 days or something,
They basically said it was like normal to present terms when making an offer.
That's
Not in making an offer to people you respect. The people whose power you respect. Nobody says, you take my offer, you got 30 days to use it, or use it, I'll just build around you. I mean, that's not even a respectful thing. When you look at the process of the city negotiating land swaps and giving 261 parcels of land to Crown Enterprises, did the city ever talk to any of the communities that would be impacted by them moving into their neighborhoods and setting up these industries? The city just say, well, we've got these vacant parcels here and we can use this to negotiate. Like, you've got this monopoly game and you are on the purple properties, when you pass, start right after you collect $200, properties that have really no value and no negotiating powers. We don't really have to talk to these people. It just really speaks to something. And it's very personal, obviously, because our organization at Eastside Community Network is adjacent to, or just, I think 500 yards.
You are encased, not really adjacent. You are literally encased.
Right. And the city never came and talked to us and asked us our hopes, dreams, or anything. There was a 3-week community benefits process, and we weren't allowed to be part of it. So that was bad enough. And then I look up, and Crown Enterprises has this great big trucking depot on Jefferson, replacing grassy lots with cement and trucks and more truck traffic to an area that needs less, and no notice or explanation given. And so it feels like Crown Enterprises can function as a bad actor with the city's approval, getting land from the city, from deals that the city sets up, that don't necessarily get the kind of input from residents.
Yeah, so absent a real democratic process. And folks would say we have, this community benefits ordinance that allows for a neighborhood advisory committee to sort of influence. But those neighborhood advisory committees are heavily political, and most of the people who are on those neighborhood advisory committees are appointed by politicians, right, who have a perspective and view of what they want to see and not disappoint. The other piece of that piece of legislation is that it completely marginalizes organizations and businesses who are also in the footprint. Eastside Community Network is literally encased in FCA, and Eastside Community Network could not participate in the neighborhood advisory committee meetings as an organization, and neither could other businesses. That is a huge miss, right? Especially for organizations and businesses who are advocate organizations and who have become institutions and neighborhood anchors in neighborhoods like Cadillac Heights. What organization is speaking up on behalf of a Savannah Lewis in this instance, right?
Yeah, the Great Lakes Environmental Law Center is advocating for them, trying to build a case against the Maroons, and has even partnered with a real estate company to offer services for residents in the community to try and, sort of negotiate the best deal for themselves if they're not going to go through the company. And, the Environmental Law Center has also been involved in like the FCA stuff and U.S. Ecology and a number of other.
Yeah. Nick Leonard is awesome. He does a great job supporting this work. And so we really appreciate all that he does, and so many other people in the fight for, the kind of justice that you want to see. You want to make sure that if you're going to give people a fair deal for their land, they have time to consider it. Moving a 90-year-old is no joke.
Right.
So what did she say? Did she decide to move? What is she going to do?
I think her daughter said she was going to move her, didn't she?
Right. Yeah. She told the company no, but like she literally will be the only one left on her block. So in the spring, they plan to move her in with her daughter.
And Scott Benson says in the article that his office wasn't aware of Lewis's contact attempts and has not received any complaints from residents. I find that highly problematic. For a sitting city council person to have a resident, an institutional resident like a Savannah Lewis, and for that story and for that complaint to sort of just be brushed out. Oh, we weren't aware. How are you not aware?
If I was a city council person, and I will never be one, but if I was a city council person and somebody brought that to my attention, my response would be, let me reach out and talk to them and find out what's going on. Rather than I haven't heard anything, let me intentionally do something to make sure I understand it. If I was a mayor, and I never will be, I would say, let me send my people over there and talk to the residents to make sure they're okay. That's what happens when you have a government that is working for you and on your behalf, as opposed to a government that is just waiting for the noise to die down so things can go back to normal. And I think that's very disappointing. I mean, I thought that the point of having council by districts is to have better representation and more in-touch government. Most people do not speak to their council people every day, but if a council person hears there's an issue, I think they have a responsibility to ask. He does have a staff, doesn't he?
And I don't know if it was Benson or the mayor off the top of my head, but they did say that they would reach out to Miss Lewis and hear her concerns. They were really concerned about it. But I spoke with her over the weekend, and she said no one had reached out to her.
So how is go ahead, Donna, I'm sorry.
Go on, I'm sorry.
How is she affording the move if she didn't sell the house to them? Is the house on the market, or what is she going to do? She's
going to work with the real estate company that the Great Lakes Environmental Law Center is working with to put it on the market.
So put it on the market. I mean, it's not going to really sell to anybody either, because by the time this is done, the value of the property is almost zero. So it makes it difficult.
Definitely. And that is a point that Andrew at the Law Center brought up, is that, for a lot of Americans, buying a home is this path of wealth or building generational wealth. But in Detroit, that's not necessarily something that you can count on for a lot of Black homeowners like Savannah Lewis.
Right. So I'm reading the article, and I'm reading a quote from Benson. I just want to see if this is a quote you're referring to, where he says, if people are intimidating people to try to sell property, that's problematic. He said his office has been closely following Crown's work to make sure that our residents are protected. I don't see in here where he is promising to connect with them. He said that in some other quote.
It was Benson or the mayor's office that said, we weren't aware of this, but now that we are, we're going to make sure to follow up. Actually, it was Benson. I gave Benson her number.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
And she has not been contacted yet.
Right.
All right. For those of you who live in District 3, take note about the representation that that resides there. Are there any environmental concerns regarding this concrete facility that is rising to the top?
Yeah. So this concrete facility was constructed, went into operation in September. Concrete is one of the leading causes of air pollution in the country, and it emits harmful sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, carbon monoxide, and it can travel up to 2 miles. There's a number of neighborhoods in the area, and there are homes literally across the street from the concrete facility. So definitely there are a number of residents that will be affected by the emissions from this plant.
All right. Listen, we are going to take another break. This is our last break for the podcast, and we are going to be right back. Keep it locked. Thank you, Jenna. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Founded in 2021, the Stoudemire is a membership-based community recreation and wellness center centrally located on the east side of Detroit. Membership in the Stoudemire is available on a sliding scale for up to $20 per year or 20 hours of volunteer time. The Stoudemire offers art, dance, and fitness classes, community meetings and events, resource fairs, pop-up events, the Neighborhood Tech Hub, and more. Members who are residents of the East Side have access to exclusive services in the Wellness Network. Join today and live well, play well, be well. Visit ecndetroit.org.
Bridge Detroit is your news and engagement platform that is telling the stories of Detroiters rooted by community priorities. Started in 2020 by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Stephen Henderson, the newsroom has already established its footing as the go-to source for hyper-local perspectives that ask the hard questions, brings accountability, and searches out real solutions. It's free to become a member of this award-winning news organization. Visit bridgedetroit.com today to sign up to receive the news delivered right to your inbox. Bridge Detroit, by Detroiters, for Detroiters.
All right, welcome back to Authentically Detroit. Listen, before we head out today, it's been about a week and a half since the Detroit City Council approved a $7.1 million contract to expand ShotSpotter, the sound surveillance technology that promises to alert the police authorities when shots go off, to sort of directly pinpoint where those shots are coming from, right? It passed by a 5-4 vote. Donna, we've been talking about this for a while. React to this.
I think we have a different type of shot spotter that has not been working very well. That's when you hear gunshots or you see dangerous things, call 911 and wait for the police to respond. Because people who are present when crimes are in process are certainly better equipped to report something than after the guns have been shot. And we talk to our neighbors, and most of them talk about very slow, non-responsive policing. I don't understand the purpose of ShotSpotter, so maybe I need to sit through a seminar so someone can understand this technology to me. Because what I understand is you hear a gunshot and you drive to the area, and the police will get there, and hopefully the criminal who shot the gun is going to be standing there still with the gun in hand, waiting for the police to get there. But in fact,
the criminal is staying there and waiting. They're waiting.
But so very few criminals have been apprehended using this brilliant technology. Well, what can happen is another person could be walking down the street and in the vicinity of where that gunshot was heard, and that person could be criminalized or treated like a suspect simply because of their presence, and maybe they look a little bit like a thug or whatever it is the police use to profile people. And so what has happened has been an increase in aggressive policing. That's where you don't have a formal stop and frisk policy, but if your gun has been shot, you're trying to see who did it. You see somebody who fits a profile. Are you going to pat them down to make sure they didn't shoot the gun? I think it's problematic, and I think that, that we're getting away from, people talk about community policing being the most effective policing. To the extent police presence is ever useful, I don't think this is it.
Well, you want to know what was particularly shocking to me is sort of paying attention to all of the comments on the public record when ShotSpotter was being debated for weeks by the city council, and the overwhelming amount of public record comments were in dissent of ShotSpotter, right? And for this to pass was shocking. I think the other thing that I want to sort of uplift is, City Councilwoman for District 4, Letitia Johnson, sent out a shot, sort of a flyer that, touted what ShotSpotter was supposed to do, right? Without any information on its efficacy, without any information about why people are dissenting. It was literally a flyer that, touted what ShotSpotter is supposed to do in preventing and intervening on crimes. And then this flyer linked out to a survey. And I forget, it was maybe 2 or 3 questions on the survey without any real education around this technology, what it's supposed to do, where it's supposed to go, and how police are supposed to interact with it. Just asking if residents sort of agreed with this technology or not. I found it abominable, and I found it really irresponsible for a sitting city council person to send out such information without any context and without any education around it. And so I'm still struggling to figure out how this measure actually passed when I know the overwhelming amount of public record, right, was a dissent, right? And so city council members can argue about what they've been hearing in neighborhoods, but is that for public record? Right? All of that's anecdotal, right?
I mean,
is that real?
Actually, I took the time to fill out the survey, and the very next day, the vote was held. I don't know if there were any community meetings held. I certainly wasn't invited to them. I have to be really honest, because this one hurt on a personal level, because this is one of us, who's representing us on city council, and I felt misrepresented. I honestly felt like, wow, my opinion doesn't matter. I wonder whether people get to city council and decide that people in the communities that elected them to office aren't smart enough to really understand the issues, and that they have to think beyond what we think so that good things can happen in the city. But that hurt on a very visceral level when I read that vote. I'll be honest with you, and I'm not the only person. When city council was elected, there was so much hope that this was going to be a difference. But honestly, this same vote could have taken place last year.
Yeah. So let me run down how people voted. The no votes were Council President Mary Sheffield, Council Member Gabriela Santiago Romero, Council Member Mary Waters, and Council Member Angela Whitfield Calloway. The yes votes were James Tate, Coleman Young, Fred Durhall, Scott Benson, Letitia Johnson, right? Which is really shocking, because I know that it's diametrically opposed to the views that folks who were campaigning for her, like hitting the pavement for her, wanted to see. So I'm wondering, how. I guess another question is, how does this kind of position, sort of affect the person and their ability to remain in communication with the electorate and what the electorate really wants? Because I really find the passing of this legislation very odd, Donna.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the imperative, right?
I mean, I think that, when you elect somebody to political office, you still have to hold them accountable to whatever kind of political promises and also to expectations that you have for political representatives for your community. And so I think that there will be some communication back. I mean, right now I'm just trying to digest it, because why would you even ask me my opinion if it didn't matter? And that's the way it felt. And so,
and the framing of this, right? I think the fight was being framed as, hey, the fight is against using ARPA money for this, right?
It's not about money. It's about aggressive policing. Mm-hmm. It's about, the kind of policing that people keep saying they want to see, and then they keep putting more money in other things. If you want to see officers actually develop relationships with people in neighborhoods to prevent crime, because ShotSpotter could not prevent a single crime, because the police come after the shooting happens. And what can happen is, okay, if we feel like the policing is going to be intense here, we're going to go somewhere else, I guess. So it can displace, criminals into other places. But, the question is, why are people engaging in criminal behavior? And we know there's a lot of trauma and brokenness in our community. We understand why there's a lot of trauma and brokenness in the community, whether it's mass incarceration, whether it is all of these kids in the foster care system, out of home, in places where parents are, whether it's substance abuse on parents. There's so many issues and untreated mental illness on part of parents, and it becomes intergenerational. And somebody's got to get in there and say, let's try to help these people not get into a position where they're out there, firing off guns. But
what is ShotSpotter? What is ShotSpotter doing?
What I keep hearing people say is, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. We all know that. But in the meantime, let's just stop the crime, as if what we're doing is going to stop it.
My question is, what is ShotSpotter doing that people with phones ain't already doing, right? Like,
Exactly.
what's the difference between, like, the audio equipment picking up a shot versus a resident calling and say, hey, I'm hearing gunshots at such and such? It's really crazy. So ShotSpotter's network of microphones are already used in 6.48 square miles of the 8th and 9th precincts on the city's far west and east sides, respectively. The new contract will expand ShotSpotter to 31.8 square miles in portions of the city with high levels of gun violence. The contract takes immediate effect and expires June 30, 2026. Right?
We need to have Tawana Petty on here. I need to hear from my good sister who can explain some of this stuff to us, because this hyper surveillance of our community has not reduced crime in neighborhoods where people are struggling. It has done none of that. And so I think that we really need to hear from people who have expertise in this area. It can help outline what some of the problems are. I know, again, when I first heard of ShotSpotter, I was like, well, anything to stop gun violence. And that's a desperation feel that some people have, but the reality is it doesn't. And so we need to work within a real system of what's happening, and as opposed to pie in the sky. Wait a minute, what if, what if people stop shooting guns? It's not. I don't see it happening.
All right, if Tawana Petty were here, she would say surveillance ain't safety. Tawana Petty, you have an open invitation to come on Authentically Detroit.
Yeah, we're gonna reach out. I'm gonna reach out. I really want to hear from her. And maybe even bring on Eric Williams, and we'll ask him about that, because I know that he's been doing some of that work as well for the Justice Center. But I think it's important that we really start trying to disentangle what all of this means, all of this surveillance activity means for the lived experience of Detroiters.
Yep, and Councilwoman Letitia Johnson, if you want to come on and explain why your vote was a yes, we are happy to explore that and have a conversation with you. You're more than welcome, as always, as you've always been welcome. All right, if you have more topics that you want discussed on Authentically Detroit, you can hit us up on our socials on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Authentically Detroit, or you can email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. All right, now it's time for shout-outs. Let's start with you, Donna. Do you have any shout-outs?
Yeah. Shout out to all the people who voted no on ShotSpotter. All the women on City Council, both the mayors, Gabriella and Angela Whitfield Callaway, thank you for standing to your principles. I also want to shout out to Rita Scott and Ken Coleman, who joined me in a housing justice workshop.
Oh, yeah. How did that go?
It was a lot of fun. We just ran out of time. So many issues to be discussed. And I told both of them, I really want you to come on Authentically Detroit so we can finish this conversation. So I hope to hear from them soon. We have so many people who've been writing in and wanting to come on Authentically Detroit. That's such an honor,
It is.
So it's trying to figure out how, when we can do this is our new problem. But I mean, I really want to have them on soon.
Yeah. Jenna, you have any shout-outs?
Oh, shout out to you guys for holding it down with the podcast and having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and hear more and your perspectives on these contentious issues.
Anytime. Thank you for coming on. You know who I want to shout out, Donna Givens Davison? I want to shout out Alex B. Hill. If you have not listened to our episode last week featuring Alex, go back and listen to it. I was really, first off, we got to have him back on, but what a great conversation we had last week, Donna, with Alex. I found it really palpable, and, to draw the intersection of, mapping, with narrative storytelling. It was really threaded beautifully. Go back if you missed last week. I also want to shout out Detroit Public Television. I'm going to be on TV. I'm going to be on TV this week, y'all. So be sure to tune into this week's episode of American Black Journal, where I sit down for a one-on-one with departing CEO of Forgotten Harvest, Kirk Mays, to talk about his future plans. And so you guys make sure you tune in to American Black Journal every Tuesday and Sunday on our PBS affiliate here in the city of Detroit, Detroit Public Television. And lastly, I want to shout out all of this shout out is inspired by Chase Cantrell. All of the amazing 20-somethings doing great things here in the city of Detroit. Jerwan, Howard, Davon Reeder, Natalia Henderson, like all of Jenna Brooker, right? Malachi Bear, all of these amazing
Natalia, Naomi
Cawthorn,
Ian McCain.
All the 20-somethings
on our staff. Davon Reeder. We have quite a few on our staff. Yeah. I mean, there's lots of great 20-somethings in Detroit.
Yeah, pay attention to them, y'all. Until then, we thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Catch the wave.